All right, guys, this is BS with Joe.
Yep.
We kind of went off on a little tangent on our last video. We were supposed to talk about more on.
We were originally going to talk about Utah, but that's
Yeah, we're going to still
We'll
talk
get
about
there.
that.
We'll get
We'll get there.
right now. We're talking about how the illegal immigration has created modern day slavery.
Yeah, because what we're doing is California did this in the '80s with the farms.
Right.
People weren't willing to work hard for the farms to bring down the cost of products.
Right.
And they were getting inflated, so they were like, let's contract our government to allow us to bring in illegal immigrants and have sanctuary cities,
Right.
to have them farm our fields for less than what a living wage is,
Right.
and we would allow them to take that money and send it back home.
Now, another argument that I've heard from people is Americans don't want that job.
Right.
Okay, so let me throw this out at you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that a new McDonald's is built.
Mhm.
Okay, and they're looking for a cashier to run the front.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What would it take to get you to take that job?
Well, to be honest with you, they don't need it. Look at most McDonald's you go to today. There's kiosks there. There's
Right.
not an actual person there.
Okay.
And this is where, like, our modern technology hasn't been implemented and used correctly. We have so much ability for innovation, and necessity is the mother of all inventions.
Yeah.
So you look at these farmers who have to get all this stuff.
There are certain things that can't be picked by machine.
Like strawberries.
Right. Strawberries, I think cabbage is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be done by hand.
Right. But there's hydroponic systems.
There are.
You look at Japan. Japan, they have
But
these...
actually, they've built hydroponic growing systems. They can't get it to scale
Right.
the way they really need it to scale. They can grow, but they're not able to get the volume of product that they need.
If it's a scalable problem, that could be done.
It is a scale problem.
It could be done. You look at Elon could work on this.
It could.
You look at Tesla with batteries. Just being able to produce the electrical batteries to produce an electrical vehicle
Yeah.
was a huge scaling problem.
Oh yeah. It's still an issue.
It's still an issue, but it's viable now,
Right.
and people use it every day, and
Right.
the vehicles last for a decent time.
True.
And any kind of problem like that, there's going to be innovation. There's, you look at already with nuts. A lot of your nuts are, they have this machine that goes up around the tree, has this canopy that comes around and shakes the shit out of the tree,
I've seen that. Yep.
and all the nuts fall to the
yeah.
canopy, and then they're all collected.
That was the last video.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the segments 20 minutes or less, and sometimes we go over, sometimes we're short.
Yeah, last one was 5 minutes short.
Yeah, and the last one we kind of went off a little bit.
We did.
But with this, like, I've had arguments with my father about this. He thinks, people just need to man up and just work the fields. And yeah, they'll pay people. People want to work those lower
Well,
wages.
I understand what you're saying. Okay,
Mhm.
and you're right, because it was originally believed that the only way to pick cotton was by hand.
Right.
That was the belief until Eli Whitney came out with the cotton gin.
Yeah.
So sooner or later, somebody's going to figure out how to pick cabbage without destroying it.
Right. There's going to be harvesters, and and there's other systems. There's hydroponic systems. There's all kinds of different ways.
Yeah.
And I know that with artificial intelligence coming around, leave it up to that to try to solve that problem, and they'll probably solve the problem. And it'll probably be a stupid, ingenious way that's cheap and easy and effective.
AI is another thing.
Right.
It's scary.
It's scary, and it is going to take jobs. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I want to go back to a single income family home.
That would be great, but we're
single
losing
individual-
jobs. We're not gaining jobs. We're losing jobs.
Right, but the jobs, the thing is, and it goes to a supply and demand problem. So if we have all these illegals go, there's going to be there's going to be a lot more homes and apartments.
Yeah, but you're talking
On the
about
market.
You're talking about I'm talking about the cashier
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying, well, we don't need the cashier.
Right.
So those jobs are out the window.
Right, but I mean, the thing is, now we don't have cashiers, but we're going to have somebody now that has to monitor all the kiosks, make sure the dining hall is cleared and clean up debris, the soda machines are filled up, the napkin dispensers are filled up.
There's already people doing that.
Right, but the thing is, it would be a cashier that, when it was slow, would do that.
Yeah.
Now there's an individual that could take care of that and help people while it's busy. So you're actually going to produce a better service quality, possibly. And they could go to the person to help them at the kiosk if they have a hard time with the kiosk.
So instead of doing the volume, used to be 3 cashiers. Now you've got 4 kiosks and 1 person walking around helping.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 1 job. So you lost 3.
You lost 3, but you can pay that one individual that did that job
They're
more.
not going to.
They're not going to, but
Think about it from the corporate standpoint.
I know.
They're saying we've invested our money in these kiosks. They need to pay off.
oh, they'll pay off.
I know they will, but
They'll
they're gonna pay off 25,000 times before they pay that helper more money.
Right, but the thing is it's going to get to the point where there's not going to be any companies around if there's nobody that has enough money to buy things.
That's the direction we're headed.
Right, but then there's always going to be a company that's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to pay a better wage. I'm going to pay this. I don't need this. I don't need to have this dividend. I could do more with less.
Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
and In-N-Out Burger did the same thing.
Yes. So so those corporations are going to come in and undercut these big corporations that used to have the best product and easiest product and everything, and everybody's going to realize this is shit compared to this other product.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. The fat cats wind up getting too big, and they can no longer function properly. So that's where a lean company that doesn't have to have all these dividends and all this other stuff.
Right.
And they, and they're not paying the CEOs extravagant prices. That's where,
in order to give the return on investment to the investors.
Mhm. As long as there's no monopolies, it'll happen.
We do have a few monopolies.
Yeah, you look at Apple and Google and
Yeah.
Samsung.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a whole nother problem there.
Yes.
But it's one of those kind of problems. The only way to solve it is to not consume it.
We're not going to stop consuming.
No, but there'll be another product that we could consume that is better for America.
Yeah.
Because you look at all these companies that have left America, and China kind of exposed this. Like with Louis Vuitton and all this other stuff. They're saying they make the product except for the label. And then they send it to Louis Vuitton because they're the purchasers of these products.
Right. And
they're finishing them off, and they're doing the quality control and all this other stuff of the products.
Right.
And then they're selling it on the market for $1,000 when it only costs $50 to make.
Yeah.
Apple does the same thing with their cell phones. Nike does the same thing with their shoes.
The Apple iPhone, I remember it being like $26 is what it cost to make one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they sell for $1,500.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you look at Nike shoes, same thing. Extremely more expensive.
Nike's a whole kettle of fish.
Yeah.
Do we want to go down that rabbit hole?
No, we don't. But if you guys understand what those corporations are like,
Yeah.
you see where we can
I mean,
change.
You want to talk about Nike, we're going to start talking about child labor.
Oh yeah, and Apple's already there with how you get the cobalt and certain materials for the phones.
Right.
And that's for almost any product that America consumes.
True.
Um,
We're guilty.
oh yeah, anyone who has a smartphone, anything like that, we're guilty.
Electric vehicle.
Electric vehicle.
Yeah, we're guilty.
Oh yeah.
We are enabling child labor.
Right. And now that goes in with what the real topic of this is. So, with all these illegals that are coming in,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of like our laborers. They're our slaves. They're that child labor.
Exactly.
We're the same.
And we're complicit.
Well, no, we're the same. Under the super wealthy, the billionaires,
Right.
they don't look at us as people.
No, we're labor force.
We're labor force. We're their help. We're their this. We're their entertainment. We're whatever they want.
Right.
We're their monkeys that they tell us to dance, and we dance for them.
Right.
And they're the ones that fund a lot of the stuff that's going on. Like No King's Day was
Yeah.
funded partially by
Carolyn Walton.
Carolyn Walton.
Which there's been some talk about boycotting Walmart because of that. She owned 1/10 of Walmart. You're not going to hurt her by boycotting.
You're not going to hurt her. But that's the thing. The money is not important to them.
No.
They see us struggling and working really hard to get that almighty dollar just so we can have some sort of decency of a life.
Yeah, I mean, just the other day, actually it was yesterday, I was driving a bus through Universal, and I saw a van, a white van, that got off of I-4 onto Universal, headed toward the park, and it had Family Vacay 2025 in soap on the side, you know. And I thought, well, that's cool. Somebody actually has the money to do a family vacation.
Right.
Who are these people that have this money?
Well, and it used to
But
be
yet people
to be every American had the
No, it's become the elite.
it's become the elite, but it used to be every family would save and save and save, and once every 5 years or 6 years take a vacation to Universal and Disney and
I know people that have master's degrees that don't have the money to do that.
Right. But it used to be a common thing.
Yeah.
Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s,
With a single income, you can still do it.
with a single income.
Yes.
Now,
Obviously, this family went in the van. You know, they're
Uh-huh.
not doing the whole airline thing. They're family truckster,
Mhm.
the old style.
well,
which is
your,
cool.
your billionaires, they're going to get a limousine that's a big black van that has no windows, and it's going to have big luscious seats in it. That's like a limousine that you could stand in.
Well, yeah, they're probably going to use a $500,000 motor coach.
Right, or a motor coach, and they're going to be driven to a special entrance
Yeah,
where they're going to have somebody greet them and walk them to a VIP lounge.
I've been to that entrance at Universal.
Yeah, so have I. I worked there.
Yeah.
I've very much seen a lot.
I
of
wasn't a
this.
guest there, but I've seen the entrance.
Well, I've seen the guests, and I've actually escorted some of the guests. And they go to this lobby area where they could have drinks, cookies, snacks.
Right.
They get an
It's a lounge.
itinerary. Yeah, it's a lounge. It's an itinerary. And then when they're all ready to go, they have somebody escort them, walk them right on the ride. They
Yeah.
don't wait in line. When they go see the shows, they have a special VIP seating area for them for the shows, and the shows will even wait for them if they're running behind.
Right. Now I know Disney does that mainly with celebrities, and I kind of understand it with celebrities because there needs to be a buffer from the public
Yes, celebrities. I totally agree with
because
that.
people get stupid about celebrities.
Yeah, and
To me, it's just a person,
it's just a person.
right? But
Right.
some people are just crazy
Right.
about celebrities.
And
Just like I was listening to a sportscast that was talking about a basketball player that was, you know, they're saying he's a phenom, and this kid's amazing and all this, and I'm like, it's just a kid.
just a kid.
So he plays basketball. So what?
And he's really good at basketball.
Yeah, good for him.
Right. And that goes also, everybody's life's different. And I can't imagine what it's like to be somebody famous where everybody recognizes you and it's hard to get around.
It would be torture.
It would be torture. But the super wealthy are kind of the same way. They don't have a clue of what a gallon of milk costs.
Right.
a gallon of gas costs.
True.
They don't
No,
have to
they
worry
don't.
about any of it.
Yeah, they don't. They have no idea.
They don't even they don't care what things cost. They want a Lamborghini, they order it and it gets delivered.
Right.
That's just their life.
Right.
Their life, it's more of what can they consume their time to entertain them and do.
They have a completely different attitude about money.
Right. And also,
They don't think about, like, for example, when they buy a house, they don't buy a house. They have a trust to buy a house.
right.
Nothing is in their name.
No. And a lot of the people that they surround themselves are probably wealthy individuals too.
Yeah.
And it's all about fitting in with their friends and family
Right.
and their companions
At the club.
at the club. And and that's where a lot of them spend a lot of money on NGOs and all these other things. And that's where I feel like a lot of the rioters are somewhat funded by a lot of these individuals because they feel like there needs to be a change in our country because people shouldn't have to work that hard.
Okay.
I think.
But the people that are funding these riots
Mhm.
are the mega wealthy.
Mhm.
So the people in the riots are the pawns. What's the advantage to the mega wealthy? That's the thing. You always follow the money, but
Right. Well, it's so they can stay in power. Because if there's ever anybody
if all the illegal immigrants are wiped out, okay, they're still in power.
Mhm.
They might have to pay a little bit more to get their strawberries picked.
Right. The thing is with them, they're going because their money is also a lot of stocks, like you were saying, trust funds.
Right.
So it's in a lot of stocks. It's in a lot of different things, a lot of investments.
BlackRock, Vanguard.
Yeah, if something ever happened where those investments all of a sudden tanked,
Right.
like a Great Depression,
Mm-hmm.
they're no longer billionaires and trillionaires or millionaires. They're kind of more on an even playing field because those companies will no longer exist.
True, but they don't have all of their investments in one egg.
No, they'll still come up afloat,
Yeah.
but now all of a sudden now they worry about money.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like when a wealthy person has equity in a home, they don't want the equity in the home.
Mm-mm.
They borrow against it to liquefy
Mm-hmm.
and stay liquid all the time
They want to be able. Well, it's all about
because they want that money working for them.
right. What's important to them is their time. Their time is either pleasure or their time is used properly because that's the only finite thing to them
Right.
is time.
Yeah.
We all have a clock.
It's true.
We all have so much time on this earth.
You can't buy time.
You can't buy time. And for them, that's where, for them, it's they don't care about their money or what the money costs. They want pleasure or they want gratitude or they want whatever they need. They feel like they need
Right.
at any given time. And some of this uber wealthy, they start thinking about legacy. And that's what I think drives Trump. I think that's what partially drives Elon.
Yeah, I agree with that. They want to be the next Rockefeller.
Well, I don't want to be the next Rockefeller. I think Trump wants to now. It used to be he wanted to be the Rockefeller. But I think
basically he is.
he is.
He has generational.
He has generational wealth. But now, after having all of his kids and his family's more important to him.
Right.
So what he sees is how can I continue our country to provide a stability for families to continue.
Okay.
And that's where he wants to make America great again.
And that's why he's doing the tax cuts.
Yep. That's why he's
to make it easier for us to make it.
That's where in his.
So why even both Republicans and Democrats are saying that this big beautiful bill is going to benefit the wealthy more than the.
I
haven't read it.
That a lot of that's due to salt bills that are in it.
Okay.
So, and this is where he has to get the bipartisan out of the way. This is where he's got to get the Democrats in. I think there shouldn't be any salt into it. And that's what Elon, and that's where Elon was kind of upset with it.
Well, that's basically what Elon said, is that this benefits the wealthy way too much.
Well, it's not the wealthy. It benefits democratic states, which benefits the wealthy.
Right.
Which the democratic states, it's not states, they're cities.
Yeah.
As you look at California, it's always San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Sacramento, yeah. And you look at Utah. Utah's very red except for Salt Lake.
Right.
Look at Colorado, it's Denver and Colorado
Pueblo.
Springs. Yeah.
Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Denver.
Yeah.
Aspen is blue.
Aspen, yeah. But Aspen's so small they don't have any.
It's got a lot of power, though.
Yeah. You look at Illinois with Chicago.
Yeah. Chicago is the just big blue stain on that state, but the rest of it is all red.
Yeah. And
although Springfield is turning blue.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, is like your real Americans are in the red areas of all these states and all these countries because they're the ones that work hard. And they may have companies, but they're small mom and pop companies.
Right.
And it may be handed down or they just created it because there's a need.
Mm-hmm.
And they help out, they supply a service for their communities.
A lot of the people that are in those red areas cannot fathom how the people in the blue areas think.
No, they can't.
It's alien to them.
Right. And I'm originally from a red part of the country in New Mexico where it was red.
Yeah.
And everybody worked hard because it was an oil field.
Yeah.
And we just did it. And there was a lot of companies that struggled and competed against large oil field companies like Baker Hughes, Weatherford, all these other companies.
Yeah.
And they did it. They survived.
Ton.
Yeah. So that's where I think a lot of this political division is it's this uber wealthy who don't want they look at MAGA and all of them as deplorables. Hillary Clinton and all of them said it exactly, that's the way they believe. And that's majority of Americans.
Right.
Trump, I think, has looked, and he's looked past that. I think he's used his family to look past that, and he's embraced it.
Well, Trump used to be a Democrat.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
So did RFK. So did Tulsi Gabbard. And
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard used to not like guns, and she used to be in the military.
Right.
But now she's gone and done these Patriot games and all these other things where you use your firearm as with a sport. And she's embraced this ideal and this ideology that most Americans live, and they're fighting for us. So I've got to have their back. But there's things that Trump's doing right now in the Middle East that we're probably going to talk about in this next if you want to segue into that.
We can do that.
And that's going to be our next episode.
He's also waffling on immigration.
Yes, and we could talk about that too.
Yeah.
But that's for our next next episode.
Next video.
Next
Like,
video.
share, subscribe.
Yes. Leave a comment.
Yes.